Sairam students, I hope all of you are doing good. And I also hope you had a great vacation. Today we are going to begin with a new lesson from your New Voices textbook. And the name of the lesson is The Mouse, which is written by H. Munro. So let us understand about the author first before we start with the lesson. Hector U. Munro was born in the year 1870 and passed away in the year 1916. And he is better known by the pen name Saki. He was a British author and playwright whose stories satirized the then Edwardian society and culture of England. Munro's first book was a historical treatise called The Rise of the Russian Empire, released in 1900. His other celebrated works include a collection of short stories, Not So Stories, The Chronicles of Clovis, The Unbearable Bassington, When William Came, and Super Beast. This is an abridged version of his story, The Mouse. What do you understand by abridged version? The Mouse actually is a very long story, but the one that I will be teaching you is a shorter form of the original one. So quickly, let us get started. Go get a book and a pen so that you can jot down the meaning of the hard words as and when they come up. Let's get started. Here I have an image of the author, Saki. So let's begin with the lesson, The Mouse. Theodoric Waller had been brought up from infancy to middle age by a fond mother who had sheltered him from what she called the coarser realities of life. When she died, she left him alone to face the coarse and real life. So Theodoric Waller, he was brought up from infancy. Infancy is the time when you're a baby or a young child. Okay, so from his birth to middle age, okay, he was brought up by a fond mother who sheltered him. Sheltered him is who protected him from what she called the coarser. Coarser is the rough realities of life, the harsh realities of life. And when she died, she left him alone to face the actual life. As he settled himself down in a second-class railway compartment one morning, he was conscious of discomfort. The pony carriage which brought him to the station had not arrived on time, and when it did, Theodoric had to harness the pony himself, as the handyman was nowhere to be found. He had to grope about the ill-lighted stable which smelled strongly of mice. Though Theodoric was not actually afraid of mice, he did think Providence ought to have withdrawn the creatures from circulation. Now, he had just settled in a second class railway compartment. In railways also we have different class. We have the first class. So where did he sit? He was in the second class railway compartment. And he was conscious, he was aware of certain discomfort. He knew something somewhere is wrong. The pony carriage which brought him to the station had not arrived on time. So, what's a pony? It's a small horse. So, the carriage that brought him to the station, first of all, it did not arrive on time. And when it did, when it came, Theodoric had to harness the pony himself, as the handyman was nowhere to be found. Who's a handyman? Handyman is a person who is able or employed to do some work. So this person was not to be found anywhere. So Theodoric himself had to harness, to tie together, the pony. He had to grope about the ill-lighted stable which smelled strongly of mice. What is grope? Grope is to search blindly. Now that stable did not have good light. So he was searching blindly, how to tie the pony. And that particular stable, it smelled of mice. Though Theodoric was not actually afraid of mice, he did think providence is nature, ought to have withdrawn the creatures from circulation. He was not scared of mice, but this mice did not, the smell did not give him a good feeling. He was not scared of any insect, but then he thought that there is no need to have this different creatures in reality, because he himself he didn't get a good feeling after seeing those creatures. The train glided out of the station. Theodoric thought he could still smell the mice and the stable on his clothes. Fortunately, the only other occupant of the compartment, a lady of about the same age as himself, seemed asleep, and the train was not due to stop till the terminus was reached. Now, the train glided out. It moved out effortlessly. It just left the station. Theodoric, he could still smell, he could still get the same smell that he got in the stable. Fortunately, the only other occupant, there was only one other person who shared the compartment with him. And who was that? It was shared by a lady of similar age of Theodoric. And she was fast asleep. She was sleeping. And the train also was not due to stop till the terminus was reached. So till the next station, the train was not going to stop. The carriage was old-fashioned sort that held no communication with a corridor. Therefore, no other travelling companions were likely to intrude on Theodoric's semi-privacy. So this carriage that he was travelling in, it was an old-fashioned one. A very old-fashioned carriage it was, and it had no communication with the corridor. There was no access to it, and therefore no other traveling companion. So it was, he was very confident that no other person is going to intrude on his privacy. That is, only a lady who is sharing the compartment. Other than that lady, nobody is going to intrude on his privacy. What is intrude on? Basically, nobody would interfere. The train had scarcely attained its normal speed when he became aware of a warm, creeping movement over his flesh. It was a mouse that had evidently dashed into his clothes while he was harnessing the pony in the stable. Furtive stamps and shakes and widely directed pinches did not dislodge the intruder. So now the train had, attained its speed. Hardly there was any time, hardly just few minutes that the train had got its speed, and he was aware of a warm creeping movement. He felt something is moving inside over his flesh, over his body. It was a mouse that dashed into his clothes when he was harnessing the pony in the stable. And then he tried to move his body. Okay, furtive is quiet and stealthy. So he was stamping in a very quiet way, and he was shaking his body. But what happened? The intruder did not dislodge. Who's the intruder over here? Yes, it's the mouse. Okay, and it did not move anywhere. It wherever it was just over there. Okay. Theodoric lay back against the cushions and wondered what to do. It was unthinkable that he should continue for a whole hour with the mouse in his clothes. On the other hand, nothing less drastic than partial disrobing would ease him of his tormentor, and to undress in the presence of a lady, even for so worthy a purpose, was an idea that made his ear tips tingle in a blush of extreme shame. The mouse appeared overactive. Okay, now what happened? He just laid back against the cushion. He was wondering now what to do. He could, and he understood that there's a mouse in his clothes. He tried to move his body. He tried to, give some pushes and punches here and there to the mouse, but the mouse did not move away from his body. Okay, and now he is thinking what to do, how to remove this creature from his clothes. And it was unthinkable. He could not imagine himself traveling in the train with the mouse in his clothes. It was, in his clothes. It was a very difficult decision. How is it possible? Okay. And on the other hand, nothing less drastic than partial disrobing. So he thought he will remove his clothes, not completely, but yes, partially, so that he could, he would ease, so that this partial disrobing would ease him of his tormentor. Who's a tormentor? The one who inflicts severe mental or physical suffering on someone. So this mouse is a tormentor over here. Why? Because it is troubling. Okay, Theodoric. And also he had to undress in the presence of a lady. There was a lady who was sharing the compartment with Theodoric. He didn't find it right. He felt extremely ashamed that, okay, if anything of that sort also has to be done. There's a lady in the compartment. He was not comfortable doing that. The mouse appeared overactive. What do you understand by this line? That the mouse was moving very fast here and there. Okay, so mouse appeared to be overactive. Sometimes it lost its footing and slipped for half an inch or so, and then, in fright or probably temper, it bit. Theodoric was goaded into the most audacious undertaking of his life. His travelling companion seemed to be fast asleep. Crimsoning to the hue of a beetroot and kept keeping a worried watch on his fellow traveller, he swiftly and noiselessly tied the ends of his railway rug to the racks on the either side of the carriage, so that a curtain hung across the compartment. In the narrow dressing room that he had thus created, he proceeded to rid himself partially of his clothes and entirely of the mouse. As the mouse gave a wide leap to the floor, the rug, slipping its fastening at the either end, also came down with a hard cuddling flop. And almost simultaneously, the awakened sleeper opened her eyes. Now, what has happened? This mouse that was inside, sometimes when it lost its footing, it lost its grip over the body, it used to slip for half an inch or so, and then in fright, when it was scared or it was angry, it was biting Theodoric as well. Now, Theodoric was goaded into the most audacious undertaking of his life. Goaded is he was provoked, you know, to into the most audacious. Audacious is courageous undertaking of his life. What did he see? That his traveling companion is fast asleep. Crimsoning is reddening to the hue of a beetroot and keeping a worried watch on his fellow travel. He was feeling ashamed. I mean, how can he undress, and that too in front of a lady, a passenger? What if she wakes up? Okay, so he was feeling shy, he was feeling ashamed, he was feeling bad, but the only option that he had was to partially undress himself and let the mouse go off. So while he was undressing himself and while he was making arrangements, he kept an eye on the fellow passenger, the fellow traveler. He swiftly and noiselessly tied the ends of his railway rug to the racks on the either side of the carriage. So what he did, he tied the rug, a railway rug. What did he do? He tied to the racks on the either side of the carriage, so that there was a curtain between Theodoric and the fellow traveler. Okay, and that curtain, it hung across the compartment. In the narrow dressing room, now the dressing room that he created, how did he create? By tying the rug on the racks. Okay, so the narrow dressing room that he created, what did he do over there? He proceeded to get rid of the clothes. He wanted to get rid of the mouse, and partially he what did he do? He started undressing himself. And when he did this, what happened? The mouse gave a wide leap. It jumped to the floor of the rug. And when that happened, what happened? From one side of the rug, that also came off. And also came down with a hard cuddling flop. Hard cuddling is fearful. Obviously, he was trying to remove the mouse from his clothes. So he had undressed himself, and now when the mouse jumped on the curtain, okay, on the rug, and when the rug came off, obviously he was scared. He was fearful, and with this, what happened? The sleeper, the lady who was sleeping, she also opened her eyes. With a movement almost quicker than the mouse's, Theodoric pounced on the rug, held it to his chin, and retreated into the farther corner of the carriage, waiting for the lady to say something. But she just stared silently at him. How much had she seen? Theodoric asked himself. And in any case, what on earth must she think of his present posture? Now, when the lady opened her eyes, okay, Theodoric's movement was quicker than the mouse. What he did? He pounced on the rug. He jumped on the rug and held it very close to his chin. And he moved farther behind to the corner of the carriage, and he was waiting for the lady to say something. But what did the lady do? She was just staring at him silently. Now he is wondering, how much had she seen Theodoric? Now Theodoric was wondering, what did the lady see? Okay, why is she quiet? Why is she not asking anything? Okay, and he also thought that what this lady must be thinking about Theodoric's present posture, the posture that he was in. He had the rug until his chin. So what she must be thinking about Theodoric's present posture? I think I have caught a chill, he ventured desperately. So he gathered some courage. He was so scared. He didn't know what to do, what to talk, what is the lady imagining. He was completely clueless about it. But then he gathered some courage and he spoke. What did he say? I think I have got a chill. I'm feeling cold. Really? I'm sorry, she replied. I was just going to ask you if you would open this window. So the lady replied, Oh, really? Oh, I was just about to, ask you to open the window for me. I fancy it's malaria, he added, his teeth chattering slightly, as much from fright as from a desire to support his theory. So he says, I think I've got malaria, because malaria, you get those chills. So, and he said this with his teeth chattering. When you feel cold, your teeth, they chatter. So he was chattering his teeth from, actually he was scared, and also he wanted to support his theory. His theory is what? That he has, he thinks that he has malaria. So he wanted to support this thing also. That's the reason he showed that his teeth were chattering. I have got some brandy in my hold all. If you kindly reach it down for me, said his companion. No, thank you. I never take anything for it, he assured her earnestly. Now, the lady, what did she say? That, I have some brandy. If you feel, if you have that, you'll feel, you'll feel better, you'll feel warm. And I have it in the hold all. It's a bag. And she said that, if you could just bring it down for me. She had kept the bag somewhere up. So she said, if you bring it down for me, I can offer you some brandy. And what did he say? No, thank you. I never take anything for it. So he says, no, normally, for chill and all, I don't take anything. And he assured her earnestly. Earnestly is in a very sincere and a serious way. He said, you don't worry. I normally don't take anything for chills and all. I'll be all right. Don't worry. So that's it, students. We'll stop here for the day, and we'll see what exactly happened after this conversation. Did the lady realize what exactly happened with Theodoric, or there's some other end to it? So let us wait to understand what exactly happened. We'll catch up very soon in our next class. Till then, students, you will take care of yourself. Sai Ram and bye.